A man had two sons. The younger son asked his father for his inheritance early, which was an unusual request, as inheritances were typically given after a father's death. Nevertheless, the father agreed and divided his wealth between the two sons. The younger son took his portion and left home, traveling to a distant country where he squandered his wealth on loose living, indulging in pleasures without consideration for the future. Eventually, a famine struck the land, and the young man found himself in dire need. He was forced to hire himself out to a farmer, feeding pigs, which was humiliating, especially for a Jew, as pigs were considered unclean. The son, in his despair, realized he had no choice but to return to his father, acknowledging that he had sinned and was no longer worthy to be called his son. He planned to ask his father to take him in as a servant. As the son made his way back, the father saw him from a distance, filled with compassion. The father ran to him, embraced him, and ordered a celebration to be held in his honor. He said, "For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." The elder son, who had remained at home and worked dutifully, was angry upon hearing the celebration for his younger brother. He confronted his father, complaining that despite his years of loyalty, he had never been given such a celebration. The father replied, "You are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Key themes and lessons. Forgiveness and grace. The father's actions symbolize God's unconditional love and forgiveness. Even though the son wasted his inheritance and made poor choices, the father did not condemn him. Instead, he welcomed him back with open arms, showing that forgiveness is always available, no matter how far one has strayed. Repentance and redemption. The younger son's decision to return home represents repentance, acknowledging mistakes and returning to a place of love and redemption. His return is met with joy, showing that repentance leads to renewal, and one can always turn back to God, no matter how far one has fallen. The dangers of self-righteousness. The older brother's reaction illustrates the danger of self-righteousness and a lack of empathy. While he stayed loyal, he failed to understand the deeper meaning of grace and forgiveness. The father's response highlights that love and joy should be shared, especially when someone who was lost is found. God's unconditional love for all. The parable emphasizes that God's love is boundless and inclusive. It's not based on what we deserve, but on the generosity and grace of the Father. No matter how many mistakes we make, we can always be embraced by God's love when we seek it. The cost of compassion. The father's act of compassion came at the cost of his dignity, running to his son, which was considered undignified in that time. This shows that true love often requires vulnerability and willingness to extend mercy, even when it's difficult. Conclusion. The parable of the prodigal son teaches about the joy of reconciliation, the power of unconditional love, and the importance of extending grace to others. It highlights that no one is beyond redemption and that God's love is always available, regardless of past mistakes.